rehumanization look like to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I really like the term that you use, rehumanization, because I think it's a really useful way of reminding us that we're all people.
Okay.
Whether we're disadvantaged by the structures of society or advantaged by them, we actually have, humanity absolutely in common. And I think for me, take my work on contextualized admissions and my work exposing racial inequalities in university offer rates, they were both trying to push back on the deficit model of working class people, of ethnic minorities, pushing back on this idea that, that they're not represented at the universities because they're just not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I see that as a rehumanization process, trying to say, hang on a sec, this is not about individual deficit. This is about structural inequality. And if you look at it a different way, you'll see that these people are amazing and they're accomplishing a lot despite massive obstacles.
Right.
So for me, it's partly that. But lately I've been thinking it's also about how we think about the privileged as well. Because it'd be very easy to demonize the privileged and just be kind of annoyed with them.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to obviously remember that they're people too, that they are shaped by structural inequalities and the history of the society in ways, in a very similar way. They just happen to be on the plus side of the equation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, rehumanization also means understanding how the privileged behave and think in a compassionate way, recognizing that they're people and that a lot of their privilege isn't linked to them being bad people,
right,
or selfish people or indifferent to the suffering of others.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and I think only by taking that sort of compassionate approach can you ever hope to get people on side and bring them together to figure out, okay, we talked about how do you make university spaces more inclusive culturally. You're probably not going to do that by telling the privileged kids that they're bad and wrong, right?
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to bring them with you that way. You've got to figure out a way to recognise the legitimacy of them behaving in ways that are culturally familiar to them, whilst at the same time challenging the exclusionary practices that come from that.
Right.
So yeah.
Because that reminds me a lot of the work that I do, and thank you. That's a great answer. Because
I've learned a lot from supervising your PhD, because I think you do a great job of that, a great job of real kind of compassionate view of the experiences and the ways of thinking of both the privileged and the disadvantaged groups within a race framework. Right. And it's similar for socioeconomic things. So I've definitely learned a lot from your work.
Yeah, I think just for context, so I've even expanded it. So I used to say victims and perpetrators. Now I use the word targets. Some people agree, some people don't, but I prefer that we're all targets in this system, and we all kind of have these attitudes of where we perpetrate at times, and we can all learn from that. But then again, everything you mentioned, it does leave a bit more labor to people from our backgrounds. But
yeah.
It
does. Okay.
Cut from a different cloth. Is that resiliency that gets us through, right? Yeah. Thank you for that. That was great. It was an amazing answer. Thank you.